It's time now for the West Holmes Knights Football Weekly Preview Show, brought to you by MRV Siding Supply.
This week's Knights Football Weekly Preview Show brought to you by MRV Siding Supply. I'm Matt Coyle alongside Jake Seidel. West Holmes a big shutout victory on Friday with their fourth consecutive win as they got their third straight win on the road, defeating the Madison Rams by a score of 35-0. And the first quarter, Madison really controlled the time of possession throughout that first quarter, Jake, but it was Brody Bowman who kind of broke the scoreless tie with a big 49-yard touchdown run in that second quarter.
And early on in that game, you saw the first three and out West Holmes had, and you thought, I think we're going to have a good slugfest like we did last week, and then Bowman broke that one, and it was all downhill from there from the Rams. Like we said last week on the show, the Rams just aren't a team that's built to play from behind.
That was a big score, but how about the big score at the end of the first half also? You were the closest one to it. What a catch by Reed Hawksworth at the corner of that end zone.
And I told you, and I think I said it on the broadcast too, that would have been good in the NFL. He got up there, got both his feet right in front of the near pylon, and that might be up there for catch of the year on this West Holmes team.
I think so. And, of course, you get through the third quarter, Len Klein somehow found himself wide open near the end zone, and Braden Parsons able to find him with that big pass.
And the offense just had everything going for him after that slow first quarter, but I think it just goes to show how much this team keeps growing week after week. Now, week one, would we have seen some of those plays? Maybe not, because you got a new starting quarterback, got to get that chemistry built with the receivers, but week after week, they just keep improving and hitting even more of these insane plays.
Well, and Keaton Leflaw talked about the fact that maybe at halftime he was talking to the offense, wanting to get that offense, especially the line, back to blocking like they were accustomed to doing. We saw that in the second half, really controlling that running game throughout the entire second half for West Holmes.
And that allowed West Holmes to eat up clock, keep getting on the board, and eventually get to that running clock and get another win in the OCC.
And for the defense, doing the job once again. Of course, to get the shutout, I know talking to Keaton Leflaw, at the end of the game, he was really proud of the defense preserving that shutout. And part of that was the big play by Chris Williams there in the fourth quarter after the botched snap, and he'll get the scoop and score.
Picks it up, walks it into the end zone, gets that big touchdown. And again, that West Holmes defense, they bent a little bit, but they never broke. They kept making the plays. They kept driving Madison back. And it was on that drive, I believe they had 3 or 4 negative plays or penalties, and they just kept getting backed up and really just couldn't get anything going thanks to this stellar defensive wall.
And West Holmes now, thanks to that, their fourth straight win, unbeaten in the OCC as they return home to take on Worcester this Friday. Alongside West Holmes Knights head football coach Keaton Leflaw. Of course, Keaton, your team will finish up your road trip 3-0, and it has to feel good to go out there, get 3 straight wins on the road.
Yeah, we've talked about the road warrior mentality, and we've carried it over from last year. And anytime you go to 3 places that aren't necessarily the most friendliest places, and to come away 3-0 at that, there's some things that you can ask for, but you can't ask for much more. And we've accomplished what we wanted to, and we want to be 1-0 at the end of each week, and we've done that for 4 weeks now. So just hoping to continue that trend.
We could have talked there at the end of that game or after the game, I guess, so that the defense will preserve a shutout. They've been playing great defense throughout every week, but it's nice to kind of, and that defensive pride, they like to get that shutout, and they got that last week.
Yeah, that was big for them. I kind of took the one on my shoulders against Mansfield Senior. But for those guys, for that defensive staff and how hard, Coach Haley and Coach Estep have been working. I was really happy for those guys. And then our defense. I mean, we've preached for a year and a half how good our defense is. In this first part of through these first 5 games, they've definitely showed up every week, and they've proven themselves. And for them to get that little trophy that they can hang on their wall, I'm really excited for them, and I'm happy to continue to see the growth because they're a group that's not satisfied. They really want to change the perception of West Holmes defense.
So aside from that, you get officially through the first half of the year, now 5 games in. Your thoughts? This team obviously playing good football, but especially on the offense. And what have you liked about the way your team is playing right now?
Just our mentality of growing. We really haven't seen any complacency. We haven't seen that kind of step back during practice. These guys have been working hard. They're asking for more. They're asking for tougher coaching. They're asking for more film. They're asking for more reps. So I think that's the most encouraging thing that I've seen through the first 5 games. And I think when you flip it to the other side, when you look at the offensive side of the ball, I think the thing that I'm most encouraged by is the vicarious joy for others. It doesn't matter if Lynn Klein scoring touchdowns, Brody Bowman, Rhett Cheney, Coy Beachy, any of those guys. everybody celebrates everybody, and everybody, right now we don't have a lot of egos. And, in football, it's easy to have egos, especially on the offensive side of the ball. But this is a team that truly all they care about is winning. And you can't ask for anything more than those two things through the first 5 games.
Well, as much as you like to have that road mentality, I'm sure it has to be nice to be coming back at home playing Knight Stadium this week.
Yeah, definitely not traveling. We're fortunate here in this community. This community travels well. They've always traveled well for not only football but every sport. But there's obviously something magical about this place here. We've had big crowds, we've had big turnouts, and I think our guys are excited for that home atmosphere and to have that home field advantage again.
Taking on Worcester, I know a team that comes in winless, but a team that you can never overlook, a Worcester Generals team.
Yeah, I've talked about them a little bit earlier this week. They're a team that's got a bunch of size up front on the offensive line. There's not a lot of space to get in between them. We're gonna have our hands full up front. Our D line's gonna have another challenge this week. And they got a bunch of skill guys everywhere. They're still trying to find their identity. But being there, I know who some of those kids are, and I know the big play potential that they have. So we got to continue communicating on defense, knowing where everybody's at, keeping everybody in front. They're going to present a challenge. Yeah, they got a young quarterback, but he's shown the ability to move, and a quarterback on the run is the hardest thing to defend. And then as far as for our offense, you watch their defense and they're getting better every week, and they're reading their keys and they're getting downhill. And I think the biggest thing that I've seen from Worcester is their continuous growth each week in different aspects.
All right, Coach, thanks for your time. Good luck on Friday.
Thank you.
Jake Saddle here with West Holmes' Chris Williams and Charlie Cooper. And Chris, we'll start with you. The defense played fantastic against Madison, pitched a shutout. You had 8 tackles. Tell us a little bit what you saw from your unit in that game on Friday.
Yeah, just coming up together as a unit and having each other's backs and pitching that shutout is just really great for this team, great for this defense, giving us confidence going into next week.
And Charlie, the offensive line had a great job blocking again. Of course, our player of the game, the entire starting offensive line. What's it mean to see your unit get out there and just play their hearts out?
It's special to me, and I take pride in that. I got subbed in there the last drive of the first half, and then I played most of the rest of the second half, and I take pride in that. And it's just great to see us communicate and work together. During halftime, Bowden came over to me. He was seeing things on the other side of the O-line and knew that we were both playing tackles. And, we help each other and communicate, and it's fun,
You're able to hold up, open up some holes to let the Knights rush for over 230 yards. What was kind of the mentality that you guys had? You talked about the talk you had at halftime, but what mentality did you have when you got back out there?
We knew they were going to come out in third quarter. They're going to try and punch us in the mouth again. And Coach McAveen, our O-line coach, told us we should never have to pass the ball. We need to run the ball, and that should be the first thing we think about. So this was the first game that we got Brody over 200 yards, and that was a goal of ours to get Brody 200 rushing yards, and we did that.
Chris, we'll go back to you. You had that scoop and score touchdown near the end of the game there. Can you walk us through that play, what you saw, and what helped you get it into the end zone?
Yeah, me and Braxton were coming in on a blitz. Once I got through that O-line, I looked up, saw he tackled the quarterback. Great selfless play by him, and kind of picked it up and saw green open grass and scored it. But going to Braxton, though, that was a great play by him, being really selfless and tackling that quarterback so I could pick up the ball.
Back in the OCC again this week, what's your defense doing to get ready for Worcester? Because we know they come in with some size.
Just like every week, be 1-0 after every practice. Got to win every rep, win every team set, and keep that same mentality we've had this last 5 weeks and go out there, punch in the mouth early, and win this game.
Charlie, what's the offensive line getting ready for as you get ready for the Generals?
They blitz their Mike and their Will backers, but we're really going over any blitz that you can imagine. We're just preparing for anything because we know they're going to give us their best shot.
Well, guys, thanks for your time. Good luck on Friday against the Generals.
Thank you.
Well, if you need siding, MRV Siding has that with their Provia Cedar Max insulated siding they have, as well as, of course, windows and doors. You need that. They have that as well. Provia manufactures stone and accessories. Yep, they have that too. That's MRV Siding Supply, of course, located locally in Holmes County on County Road 624 in Millersburg. Also in Newark and Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, or on the web, mrvsiding.com. Well, West Holmes now 4-1 of the season. They're 2-0 in the OCC. As for the Knights, they're ranked third in the latest computer rankings in Division 4, Region 15. They're playing host to Worcester as they'll return to the friendly confines of Knight Stadium. The Generals come in winless in the season at 0-5 of the season. They're 0-3 in the OCC. They have not won a game since Week 8 of last year. Of course, they're coming off that loss to Lexington last week by the score of 42-14. Speaking of last season, West Holmes, of course, at Worcester, they defeated the Generals last year 34-6 in that game, a game where Glenn Klein had a huge night, scoring 3 touchdowns, 2 touchdown grabs, and a touchdown run. A game where West Holmes would amass almost 400 yards of offense to get that win in that contest. West Holmes has now won 4 straight over Worcester, and their last loss to the Generals all the way back in the 2020 season. Matt Roy alongside Jake Seidel once again, and another week, another first-year head coach. Of course, Ray Leak, the first-year head coach for the Generals team. Worcester still searching for that first win.
And it's going to be a tough one for them coming into Knight Stadium. You know, it's always a great atmosphere here with the West Holmes fans, but they just haven't been able to get anything going. Now, they did play some tough competition in the non-conference, of course, opening the season against a very good Orville team, and some other higher division teams came down to Worcester to play, but they just haven't been able to get their footing under them. They lost to Madison. They, like you said, got blown out last week at Lexington, and it just has not been smooth sailing for the Generals this year.
Opposite side of things, obviously, for West Holmes, who's rolling now. This is the second half of the year. I know for Keaton Leplaw and those West Holmes team, they want to finish the second half of the season strong.
And it's going to start right here because, like we said, Worcester, they've been down, but you can never count the Generals out. You don't want them to come in here on your home team and kind of sucker punch you, and then you never know what can happen. This is going to be another game. You got to get the lead early and just keep piling on, make it impossible for Worcester to come back.
Well, don't miss the action on WKLM. We will be back to live streaming the game. That's right, we'll be live streaming the game this Friday night, courtesy of our partnership with Claxon Communications. And, of course, we're also on FM 95.3 and WKLM-FM.com. Our hometown football Friday night pregame show begins at 6 p.m. and kickoff is at 7 o'clock. For Jake Seidel, I'm Matt Croy. Special thanks to head coach Keaton Leplaw, along with Charlie Cooper, as well as Chris Williams. And this week's Spice Football Weekly Preview Show has been brought to you by MRV Siding Supply.
You've been watching the West Holmes Knights Football Weekly Preview Show, brought to you by MRV Siding Supply.